I'm very excited to be part of one of the many organizations that help put this together. Raise your hand if this is your first time attending CE2. Awesome. Oh, a bunch of you. Good. Well, welcome. I'm very glad to have you. CE2, Charlottesville Entrepreneurs and Espresso, has been going on since 2015. We had a little, we started in the iLab, we had a 2-year stint online, and now we're hybrid, but really happy the last couple months to be back here live. Thank you to Rob Archer and Bill Chapman in the code building for hosting us here. Organization-wise, we are put on, hosted by CIC, the Community Investment Collaborative, SBDC, Small Business Development Center, CEDIC, Charlottesville Business Innovation Council, and we are sponsored by the Batten Institute at UVA and Watermark Design. So just a lot of awesome organizations coming together. We'll hear a little bit about them at the end, and there may be some time for networking on the back end as well, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, we'll see. But how today's run is we have 2 speakers. We start with an early stage company that shares about the company, and there's audience participation with that, where he's going to have an ask for you to help him move his business to the next level. And then after that, we have a more seasoned entrepreneur that will share their crash and learn, his crash and learn stories, and that's always a really phenomenal, just very interesting part of the day. And then there'll be Q&A there as well. And then we do announcements at the end, and the announcements are either any events that you have upcoming, or if your company's hiring, so you can be thinking about that. Although if you're hiring, you probably don't have to think very hard, you know it, you've been looking and searching, but let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to first introduce our first speaker, early stage, Jeff Lischendrillo. And a little bit about Jeff. He grew up in New Jersey, and he went to Williams College, got his degree in English, language, and literature, and then he actually studied abroad in the fall for a semester, which I'm sure was an awesome experience. And he got his master's in educational and instructional technology at New York Institute of Technology. He spent 11 years teaching in New Jersey, and during that time had a stint with a startup called Ethos Water that ended up getting purchased by Starbucks. And so we had a couple of years where he was with Ethos and then Starbucks as manager, got some business acumen there, literally in the middle of his teaching career. And so went back to teaching after that, and then pivoted a little bit into coaching and consulting within the educational space before founding Room to Discover about 4.5 years ago. So I'm excited to have Jeff share with you. Give me a minute.
Thank you. That intro sounded a lot more impressive than I ever considered myself. I'm like, wow, who is this guy? I want to see what he's up to. But so yeah, I'm the founder of Room to Discover, and if you are an educator, teacher, education leader, we'd love to work with you to help make your vision for education a reality in the classroom. So my journey to founding Room to Discover started when I was a teacher in the classroom. Over my 12 years of teaching, I can basically count on one hand the number of transformative professional learning opportunities. So almost a weekly event for teachers, if you know anyone in education, is PD time. And most of those fit the description of what I call a lecture about why you should lecture. So they come in and present some new research, something like that, but very rarely did we take something from that session and actually bring it back and have an impactful change in the classroom. I think part of the reason is that a lot of the people doing it didn't have significant teaching experience. And so for me, I thought it was really important that somebody who's helping us to become better teachers has enough experience to really know what that means. What probably was the most transformative experience for me was about 8 years in, when I switched from teaching language arts to teaching math. This is one story. I won't bore you with the details of that. But when I first started teaching, I gave my students a diagnostic test from the textbook, and I think the class average was about 20%. So this was a 5th grade math class taking a test on everything that they were supposed to have learned in 4th grade. So kind of the general knowledge, and so we'll just kind of repeat, turn to page 1 of the textbook, work your way through. If you repeat it enough, some of it will get through. But through that doesn't work. And the more schools I've worked with, I see that this is a common issue in many places. We just kind of repeat the content and hope that it'll stick. And the grades don't always exactly reflect how much students have understood. I didn't really feel like doing that. I didn't think it was going to serve my students. So I consulted the tech director at the school to see if he had any ideas, and we kind of brainstormed using Khan Academy classroom. And one of the advantages of that was the students would take a diagnostic, and instead of just saying, oh, you got 20%, would actually match them to what grade level they were on. So then I could see, oh, these students are on the second grade level, these are on the third grade level, these are on the fourth grade level. And it was really easy to just match them with the content they needed. And after doing that for a few years, my students were completing about 2.5 years of content per year. It's kind of like the amount that they covered. And for some of them, that put them on or above grade level. Some of them, they still below grade level, but we actually have a clear sense of how much progress they were making. Another aspect of what I really wanted to do was bring more inquiry-based learning. So gradually, I moved away from textbook to the point where after a few years, I wasn't using textbook at all. It was kind of half this academy and half were problem-based learning activities. So instead of actually telling them how to do something, you give them a problem to solve and they work collaboratively to solve it. So that is what kind of led me into becoming a coach and a consultant. And after my experience being as transformative as it was by inquiry and personalized learning, I came in and I was like, hey, just throw out the textbook and do this, which was a little kind of part before the course. It made a lot of people uncomfortable. And so it took me a while to realize that when working with schools and teachers who hadn't gone through this 3-year process that I went through, they get really start with the why and help them understand what's the value of things, and then also provide a gradual approach to how to make this transition. And that's where the 3 bridges of learning came up with. That's kind of the engine behind everything we do, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So for a while, I worked as a consultant for an agency, and this is what made me realize that if I really wanted to make possible what I had dreamed about classroom experience, that I needed to start my own company. There were a lot of inefficiencies in the way that the education consulting market was working. So schools would buy a set number of days. So, oh, you're going to school for 20 days. We schedule those days. Sometimes they would get busy and then they would have to use them all up at the end of the year. You're going to school 10 days in a row. People are tired of seeing you. Another thing is you might be working with a teacher and you plan a lesson with them. You're supposed to come back the next week and deliver the lesson. And they're in a different PE session or they're absent that day. And then you might not see them again for a month and then you're kind of starting over. So it seemed like it was a lot of waste. And when I would bring up issues to the supervisors about, hey, how are we making sure the school is getting the most value? They're like, just sign the work log. It was really successful measured in signed work log because that's how they get paid. So they would contract with the city for X number of days. And then as long as you got your work log signed, they wouldn't really care about anything else. And to me, that's money that is dedicated to education for children. And this isn't about getting some work logs. But we need to be actually changing something. So with Room to Discover, basically what I did is I thought about the consulting we're doing and how we could make it more efficient. And one way to start breaking the word, these were 4 things that I was often doing as a consultant. Some of it was actual consulting, meeting with the leaders and working on systematic programming changes. Some of it was coaching, working one-on-one in small groups with teachers to help them improve their teaching practice. Some was workshops, getting a bunch of people in a room and doing everybody gets kind of the same ideas or information. And some of it was working with teachers to develop resources that actually did what they wanted to do because the textbook didn't always meet all of their needs. And as a consultant, doing all 4 of these things and changing packages was not very efficient. So, for example, somebody with 5 to 10 years of teaching experience could be a great coach, right? They may not know that much about curriculum planning or maybe schedules, but they might match really well with a teacher who's their first year in the classroom, maybe classroom management. And the consulting rates are pretty high, the daily rates. So schools were often paying for consulting and getting coaching, or paying for consulting and getting somebody to sit and make a resource. So the value delivery, I think, was often that was part of the issue. So this is why we've broken these up into 4 for separate services. In a lot of ways, it's similar to what schools were actually getting with consulting, but now they don't have to pay that kind of consulting rate for something that work. This is, we're now in our 5th year, and this is our feedback that we've gotten on our workshops. Pretty much between on a 5-point scale between 4s and 5s, we get consistently from probably about 1,000 or so teachers so far. These are the first 2 schools that we worked with and over a several-year period. This is how their results went. As you see, we don't have anything past 2019 because schools didn't do any testing, and they now are just resuming testing. So we'll have some more results in a few months. But you see those pretty dramatic increases in proficiency. These are schools that we worked with a significant amount of 30 days per year, at least the first year, to help make this happen. So I mentioned earlier the 3 bridges of learning, and the idea here is that we often treat learning like it's one experience. We start here, the teacher moves all the students through the content and then reach an endpoint. But what my experiences in the classroom made me realize is that there's really 3 different journeys that are going on. One is the uniform content, that in 6th grade math, everybody needs to get presented this information. Another is skill building, where we actually need to target the skill at the level the student is and let them move through at their own pace. Technology is a great driver of that. There are a number of platforms that support that type of learning, but it's really challenging for schools to implement that because they're not used to that model, and there's different measures of success, there's different ways that you need to schedule or make that work. And then the third is inquiry-based learning, where the outcomes are going to be varied for each student. It's a task, it's an activity, also a lot of collaboration, social and emotional growth that happens through these, but it's not always as simple as saying, oh, okay, now everybody must have an attitude of numbers. So in order for, and schools try to do this, they try to build the plan for Bridge 1 and then modify along the way for the other things. And that's what I've noticed consistently fails, because then teachers are like, I don't have time to get through the content, because they're not actually building a plan for all 3. So with our curriculum consulting that we do, we help schools build plans that incorporate all 3 at the beginning instead of trying to make up for it and catch up with it on the back end. Feedback has been really positive from both teachers about the impact on engagement and achievement. School leaders as well have given positive feedback about how the planning technology integration has supported their students. Sales are still very small. First year 2018 was about a half year. That was when I first, I was kind of still working part-time at the consulting agency while also adding my own clients. 2020 was a flat year and kind of hit the reset button because everything was going on site into schools. And in March, all of my contracts for 2020 all got canceled. Couldn't go to schools anymore. We had conference rooms rented out to do workshops, all that disappeared. So I spent the summer of 2020 kind of reinventing the online component of the business, which is something I wanted to do for a long time, and COVID kind of forced me into that. 2021, we did 93 in sales, and so far this year, we're double what we did last year. A little bit misleading because almost all of the business comes from office. That's the time. So it's still hard to, I'm not going to say exactly what we're going to do double what we did last year based on that we're double this year, but I think that's what I'm hoping to do. That's what I think the potential is. Some of our marketing metrics last year, we had over 120,000 organic visits. We don't spend anything on ads, all traffic's organic. We have 175 top 10 keywords, including searches for fractions, word problems, visual models, 3,250 newsletter subscribers, so we're adding 150 to 400 per month. We offer like free resource downloads to get the email addresses. Over the short term, what I really want to do is add more coaching partnerships. I have a team of coaches that work on contract, and that's a really efficient way for us to expand, leverage teachers who have a good amount of experience but don't necessarily have that consulting expertise. Turning workshops into video courses so that teachers can complete them on their own time, because that's a big ask that we've heard, is that scheduling is tough, getting everybody to Zoom into a session at the same time. So making those virtual courses, expanding our resource library. The resources were mostly made based on requests from teachers that we were working with. So we have a lot of isolated resources, and we take like a decent amount of work to change from, say, example, saying we have a resource for adding negative numbers. We need to make it a bundle of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, kind of expand to that point. The resources on our site are like $1 to $3, but then we have a few bundles that are like $15, and those sell more than anything else. So creating more of those bundles, and then certification. So for a lot of states, teachers get credit that actually increases their pay for doing professional learning. There's a pretty long process to get approved to give them those credits. And if we can still have people who get approved for that, it's going to increase the demand on the teachers if they get more pay. Over the long term, ideas like developing a full curriculum, turning some of our digital resources, which are now built in Google Slides, into an actual tech platform, and then being able to submit RFPs, which are for larger districts that do purchasing for an entire city or something like that. That's another involved process. And partner with some companies that sell, like Ce-2, will sell a bunch of computers to a district, and then they'll bundle and train to be one of those partners that some of those bundles. So when I first started, I was really excited, starting my business, trying to make a change. And then for the past 4 years, as we've developed our offerings to respond to the market, as I learned more about digital marketing and how that all works, I ended up just really doing a lot of different things, and kind of mediocre, kind of mediocre at a lot of things. And there's a lot of time. So my biggest challenge right now is just trying to, I know all these things that need to get done, but it's hard to have the time to do them. One thing is to make our funnel work better. We have an email list, we have the website, we have social, but they all kind of arose on their own, and they need to be kind of redesigned as an integrated customer journey. Another thing is that seasonality, that I'll get a bunch of contracts and I'm working on those contracts, and then I don't sell or keep the pipeline full, and then then I'm kind of like starting from scratch with selling. More consistent, balancing those two. And then what I really love, why I got into this, is developing the products. So adding workshops, creating resources, creating more learning opportunities. There's still a lot that needs to be made. And again, the time challenge is limited. So I'm just looking for some advice on how, what would be the next path or paths to accomplish the things that need to be done to take the business to the next level. I've been looking for a unicorn employee who will work for about 40K, which is all we can afford, and just be really raw and kind of help with a lot of little bits and pieces of tech stuff and scheduling, kind of doing really different things like I do. Another option is possibly finding a partner or co-founder. I'm not sure if it's too late for that, or if there's somebody out there who's like, hey, I want to jump on board with an idea. I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't have my own idea. Would be a good match potentially, or just I've never actually tried to raise capital because we've always been profitable, even though it's very small. I always wanted to go that way, but at this point, I'm considering if that's going to be a good approach. And those are some things that I think we could do if we actually raise some money. And then kind of a secondary ask would be for introductions to local schools. I moved from New York in 2020, and still most of our clients are up there. It's okay now because it's virtual, but I still would really love to connect more with Virginia education. So,
Awesome.
Along that way, I'll too long.
You're good. No, thank you very much, Jeff. So to recap, if you will, Jeff's ask, he talked about how time is an issue right now, and it's really just him trying to scale the business. And so he's trying to figure out what's the right direction to go. These are the options that he's brainstormed, but he's curious what you guys think based on what all he shared with you. So we can go ahead and open up the floor for anyone that's thoughts. And because we're webcasting this, we'll use the mic. Okay.
Yeah. Just first thing that comes to mind is I think you should read the E-Myth. It's this book that actually talks about entrepreneurs who are starting out, the need to balance the technician, manager, and entrepreneurial aspect of things.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great for you right now at the stage that you're at. I think it's amazing the growth that you've been having. Honestly, one thing that I would do is I'd literally go and show up and start knocking on doors or offer like free services to local schools, like a quick like high level assessment, just show your face, say hello. I think that's the best way to open your own doors. But in terms of the unicorn employee, I think you're gonna do better if you have structured roles than trying to find that unicorn employee, because that's somebody that you can burn out really quickly and can leave you in less than a year. That's just my 2 cents. I would look into community school, which is, the principal is Chad Ratliff. They are working with MIT and Curry to do a lot of really progressive interdisciplinary education. So, you know, if you're doing physics, they're potentially baking and.
I reached out to this.
Okay, yeah, Chad's awesome, and that whole school is fantastic.
That's what I was talking. I did reach out, but he was. Yeah.
One question to clarify for my perspective. Are you selling mostly to the teachers or mostly to the schools?
That's a good question. So, yeah, so pretty much all of our revenue comes from school budgets. The digital resources are something that teachers will often buy on their own. And I think part of the idea, and this, you know, a lot of school leaders will say, I want to bring in professional learning that teachers bring to me. So we've had before where a teacher will get a free download or buy a resource on the website, and then they use it in the classroom, and then eventually that comes back for the administrators about it. So those products don't bring in a ton of revenue, but I think they are a good way to help schools kind of see what we do before committing to like a long-term professional learning or something.
I had 2 thoughts, and that helps. 2 thoughts is you said you were trying to build the just kind of like the resources that you had. One thing you can do in the meantime is just curating the resources that are out there, because there's tons of educational things, and I kind of like sometimes get in internet YouTube rabbit holes, and I've even seen stuff that's targeted towards teachers how to teach different content. So maybe you could just be like a curator,
Sure.
Temporarily as you're building those, fleshing those out yourself. But I also wanted to ask, as far as I know, each state's kind of like teaching system is completely different. Is this something that could, you know, be where you could operate within all 50 states, or would you really kind of have to like slowly like build and add the different states as you go along based on their curriculum?
And so when you say the teaching systems are different, what specifically do you mean by that?
Just the curriculum is different, and each has different curriculum. What you're teaching, or is it you're teaching teachers effective teachers?
I think primarily the latter. They are connected, and there are differences state by state in terms of curriculum. You know, there was a big push for Common Core for a while, which kind of became a political hot button issue, and so now a lot of states have what I call Common Core, where they took Common Core and they put a comma here and there, and that's the new standards. Virginia is a bit of a, like the Virginia standards are pretty significantly different from Common Core, but again, it's still primarily in the way that they're written. Like, Common Core will have one standard that's a paragraph and it contains a bunch of things. The Virginia standards, it'll still be almost the same thing, but they'll break it up into a lot of different standards, which I think is good because it's easier to see, it's easier to mash everything together. It's really easy to see exactly what's required. But when it comes to like what you're teaching a 7th grader, you know, to to get us to pass this big test in Virginia versus California versus Massachusetts, I mean, 90% of that content is really going to be, it's not like one school thinks that they should be able to multiply negative numbers and another doesn't. Like every seventh grader needs to be able to multiply negative numbers, to pass any state test in the country. Yes.
I guess we would give you the best idea in the world, but it sounds like you're burning out. Like you've been doing it for 4 years now, and so I just wanted to touch on the unicorn employee. And you kind of said it's really hard to find a unicorn employee for $40,000.
Right.
I would think that that's something that you're telling yourself that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of talented people in this town who work for $40,000.
Sure.
And so it seems like you're in the stage of business to me where you're just being too slow to hire. And that if you looked for the right employee, they just kind of, I hate to use the word manifest, but if you go out there and you look at that person will appear.
Yeah.
And so then you have to, if you're now being slow to hire, the other line is, you've got to be quick to fire. So if you do bring the wrong person in, you've got to be quick. Luckily we're a right to work state, you can fire somebody just like that. And so to me, before you do anything else, you need to learn how to hire and fire people very quickly so that you yourself can, mentally get your head back into the game of building this business. Because I think that if you are afraid to hire somebody, then how can you go and look for a partner or a co-founder? It's still in a bootstrapping stage, so I just can't see you raising capital right now. That's just my thought.
So what would you say if it's so first thing is I did actually hire somebody in November, right out of college, and had a good amount of tech proficiency. He was helpful, kind of maintaining the database of products, and was able to set up some social calendars. But it kind of time management wasn't really there. There was a lot of sloppy mistakes, and I just had to. So I am interviewing currently, but I'm a little more skeptical now. And I think that I'm not going to hire just to fill the position. I'd rather wait and leave open until somebody really blows me away. And I feel like they have. I think part of it too is he didn't really have a passion for entrepreneurship. He majored in video production and was like, "Oh, I can do marketing." And I was like, "All right, yeah, sure, you can do this," but he wasn't really excited about it, and I think that led to not getting things done and making a lot of mistakes. So, I think I'm not closing off the possibility, but the thing is, it takes so much time to train somebody, and that's time that I'm not calling clients, that I'm not doing all these other things, so I have to decide how much is worth investing in that. But to your question, as far as because we're your comment that we're in a bootstrapping stage, so it's not a good time to raise funding. What is the time to do that? And do you go from bootstrapping to raising funding, or is that something that doesn't happen?
I'm going to pass that because I'm still bootstrapping. But
Yeah.
So first, I've got a question. Are you trying to build a business, or are you trying to change education? And if both, in what order?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think my passion is for changing education, but I don't think it's possible to do that without creating a business that does so. I don't know of any other avenue to changing education than by first building a business that can afford to do so. Because you just go around and make speeches about how children should learn differently, it's not going to change anything. You need to actually give people the tools to make the change that you're advocating for, and in order to do that, it takes money to develop those tools.
So in that case, I would recommend two things, and then I'll come to the raising money. Really look at where can you make some revenue and show growth, period. And, you know, firstly for me, what about the homeschool market? What about, you know, the community, the schools that are already trying to be different? Because we all know changing education and the system there is so tough. And how do you get some growth? You've got a product, so you can raise money because you've got a product, but you've also got 5 years there, which then as an angel investor, I kind of go, how am I gonna make 10x off of this? So I think you've got to see some good growth and be able to show your multiple plans and how you're going to expand this. And then you can raise some money, but small money may be so hard to get. I think you're a year at least away from more than friends and family. You could raise money with friends and family with your passion. There's a lot of people who give you money for passion. You might be able to get some money on Kickstarter or whatever else. But you've got to get some real revenues, some real cash flow opportunities, and some places that you plan on reaching. And so,
Could you put some like rough numbers around, because some of the things that you said I think are very familiar to you, but when you say real revenue or when you say raising a small amount, like what are those
so
mean
like
to you
one
when
of the
you talk
angel
about?
investment networks around here, the average, when we do get money, $250,000, $300,000 into an entity, and then they're raising in total maybe $1.5 million at that round.
You're saying a single person would be investing
No, a group of people come together in an LLC and invest that.
$200,000.
But that's part of it, maybe a bigger chunk of money. Most common is people going for $1 to $2 million, often for 18 months of spending, and they're going to come back once they've grown to where they aspire to go. You're not a huge capital investment business, so it might be a little bit longer. But the key thing is you've got to grow. One of your pillars is the why. You've got to give me reason to part with my money with a good why.
And what would that when you say real revenue, what does real revenue mean to you?
I think the bigger one is percentage growth. I mean, if you can actually 2x for 2 years and you're showing some real growth in the market you're going after, and you've got maybe you're expanding in kind of 3 portals of where your income's going to come because they're not all going to win, that would be something that would be very interesting. The nice thing is you're sort of like a nonprofit. You've got me at the passion of why I want to see you be successful.
Right.
That's great. There's many products with them.
Right.
I care about that. I don't know why we're dropping versus the rest of the world for education, but things like this I think can help an awful lot.
Right.
So I want you to be successful. So you're going to have that and come in a little earlier there, I think. But you've got to be able. You probably got to be close to at least projecting $1 million with a year with growth prospects to expand that.
So as a single person, I need to be selling $1 million a year before raising.
You will never do that as a single.
No, I don't.
That's
what
the
I'm
one
saying.
thing I liked over here. Most entrepreneurs are too late in hiring that salesperson.
Right.
And they're too late in giving a little equity to them. And because you're gonna have to part with some of your baby to make it worthwhile. 40 grand plus 20% of the company. There's a lot of people be interested in that.
Cool. I mean, there should be some kind of milestone for them to get 20% of the company, right?
Happy to negotiate for you.
Yeah. All right. Let's
It's
talk.
all a negotiation there. But
I'd
that's
love to talk to you more.
Would
It
you-
seems like you have a lot of.
say anything different?
Then we have to.
To keep this really short, Rebecca Haydock at the SBDC is somebody I think you should consult with, and she can answer a lot of the questions that Dawn is bringing up and points that she's bringing up. So you do need to have another hire, obviously. It doesn't have to be the unicorn employee, and what you offer them in terms of a milestone, to Dawn's point, is very negotiable. But you need to have an understanding of the bigger picture. At the end of the day, the investors who do invest in your organization want to make sure that you're covered, that you're getting a good salary, that you're getting, that you're incentivized to continue to do this. So you don't want to give away too much too fast. So if you consult with Rebecca Haydock at the SBDC, and there's SBDC folks here who can get you a consult with her.
Yeah.
I think this is a great company and I think you've got a lot of prospects, but it's just a matter of learning that.
Greg from SBC,
Greg Durazio?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I met with him probably like virtually like 10 times,
Mhm.
over the past year.
yeah. So each of the consultants, if you will, at the SBDC have a sweet spot,
Yeah.
right? And I can tell you Rebecca's sweet spot is this. Yeah.
Greg was like marketing, one couple of marketing.
Yes, exactly. So they all have their sweet spot, but Rebecca's actually a member of the Angel Group. And she's been a member since the beginning. I'm sorry, I'm the founder and executive director of the Charlottesville Angel Network.
Yeah.
So I think Don is active in the group. So I think you've got some really good advice here, but I know we need to turn it over to Charlie. So
One more, I promise, so.
Hi Jeff, I'm Bob. She said I can't sit down, Bob, hold the mic for sure. Tear it from me. I too love unicorns, probably more than anyone in here because I have them in my car, but my background's education. You're looking for a foot in the door? We're in a hybridized education environment now.
Yeah.
The number one complaint of parents in Albemarle County and Charlottesville, I don't know about the others, is LMS. The learning management systems is crap. My kid goes to Monticello High School, one LMS just for the grades, one LMS for the delivery, and they both stink. So if you offered a free consulting, just get your foot in the door on what LMS to choose for the district. That's how you get your name into the school boards and into the principals by doing that.
I'm happy to sit with you and talk about that further. The quick thing, what I've seen from the other side is that there are LMS that parents love, there's ones that administrators love, and then there's ones that teachers love. And so what usually happens is the administrators will pick the ones they want, and then the parents come in, and then the teachers don't use it because it doesn't really work for them in the classroom. But I mean, there are good workarounds. We're getting better at having them talk to each other, so the teacher can use Google Classroom and the district can use Blackboard or whatever they use. But yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to talk with anybody that has questions about that. Sure.
All right, what is your contact information, Jeff, so that people can get in touch with you if you have any more thoughts for?
So I have cards too, but unfortunately, I do not, so I should have done that, next time.
We can put it in the chat on Zoom.
My email address is jeff@roomtodiscover.com,
It's
Jeff.
kind of easy because your last name's not.
Yeah, I mean, that was the real reason I founded the company, so I didn't have to have my last name and my email address. So it's jeff@roomtodiscover.com, just spelled out with T and everything. The website is roomtodiscover.com.
Perfect.
Room.
Room to discover. All right, thank you. Give Jeff a hand.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, well, I appreciate that. That was a very engaging discussion, and definitely get back in touch with Jeff with more ideas. So now we're going to move on to the Crash and Learn speaker. So I'm very excited to present Charlie Rogers. While he's getting his computer set up, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. So Charlie grew up in Fort Smith. He was an entrepreneur from a young age. You guys all know those kids. And despite, he always had a passion for STEM. And despite the odds, based on the environment he grew up in, he went ahead and got his bachelor's in computer science from OU and an MBA from Liberty. He began his career as a software engineer at GE Fanuc here in Charlottesville. And after a few more software engineering positions, including a director role, he started Innovative Software Solutions, or ISS, over 16 years ago. Again, here in Charlottesville, and they help other entrepreneurs take their ideas and turn them into tech companies, along with other consulting services in the tech space. Charlie is also a pastor at Calvary Chapel. This man is very busy, so you hear everything. A pastor at Calvary Chapel. He sits on multiple boards, including the Chamber, Venture Central, Charlottesville Scholarship Fund, People Places, which helps foster care families, Pop Warner Little Scholars, RE Endeavors Foundation. He was voted Civic Entrepreneur of the Year in 2018, and just is very involved in the community. And on top of all that, he has a family. He's actually married with 9 children. And so just an amazing person. Fun fact, he's an avid golfer, actually went to a pro at one point, thought he could. And he's also coached Little League and many sports the last 16 or so years. So Help me welcome Charlie Rogers.
Thank you, Hope. You know, I'm excited to be here, very excited, because in my life, I can say that only God could take a kid out of the projects who had no clothes, one pair of pants, a couple of shirts, who had, you know, in our environment, they had 8 more months than food or resources and happy young people. So I'm just excited to be here. Well, thank you for introducing me. I would just say me is everything Hope just said. But my name is Charlie. I am a pastor at Calvary Chapel, husband of over 30 plus years, 9 kids. I have an amazing wife. She's like the most amazing thing because every day I get to go into work and have vacation from 8 to 5. And she's at home working 24/7. However, I do get off at 5 and I rush to get home and I knock on the door, so she no longer is taking care of 9 kids by herself. She's then taking care of 10. So that's the way I like to tell that story. And I am part of many boards, St. Anne's Bellfield, the United Way, I'm an advisor there. But I'm also the CEO of Innovative Software Solutions. And Innovative Software Solutions, we are here, we're a software development firm, and what we try to do is help founders, enterprises, startups to improve the world through creative software innovation. So in 1993 is when I started my business journey. And I started right here in Charlottesville. But before I started in Charlottesville, I had a choice. I had a choice between NASA and GE. And back in those days, they were the Amazon and the Google and the Facebook, right? You get no jobs, you stayed in no jobs. So NASA was offering me that kind of money. GE was offering me this kind of money. But I still chose GE. Anybody can figure out why I probably chose GE? Opportunity is great. I like that. I expected you to say that, close to Charlottesville. He was a good guy. We had many meetings together. I like that. Well, the reason why I chose Charlottesville is because I interned at GE and met this pretty good girl. And we've been together for over 30 plus years and have 9 kids now. And that why superseded money, right? And that allowed me, made me want to come to Charlottesville, and I've been in Charlottesville ever since. So my business journey has been, again, over 30 years, and I've had many successes and failures. Some successes include, as we mentioned, winning Entrepreneur of the Year. That was a great success. Also, we've been around long enough that we retired 2 employees. Our company's been around for roughly now almost 20 years. And we've been able to retire 2 employees that got started when they were, in their late 40s. And we were able to have a couple of retirement parties. And I don't know about you, but as a CEO, retiring people and watching them carry their life is tremendous. It's almost like having grandbabies, almost. I watched the company grow from, where's Jeff? Where's Jeff go? There you go. The company grow from 1 to now we push to 60. And a lot of those things that you had up there that you need, I can tell you those are very true. And some of the advice you got is very true. I can tell you that the business didn't grow until I realized how important marketing and sales was. And I can tell you a lot of stories about that, but I say that. But yes, what Don said was absolutely true, and what you need to start focusing on. Get that person in and get somebody out in front of people. Another success is, we had our first acquisition. I could tell you when I started this some years ago, I never thought we'd be acquiring companies. And I remember the first time we acquired a company, that was, we consider that a huge, success. Also, we created a foundation, and that foundation, every year, that foundation gives out computers to students, and it also helps students to have a STEM opportunity at UVA, a 2-week long program. We pay for everything. We pay for them to go there, we give them the ride there, we give them the computer, we give them the books, we pay for everything. So those are some of the successes we've had. Of course, there's some crashes, and if I try to tell you all the crashes, we may be here for like 2 weeks, 5 days, 23 hours, 43 minutes. I mean, we'll be here forever. But I did put a couple of crashes up here, and I didn't have the CEOs in there. Okay, so some of these crashes you want to identify with. Taking yourself off payroll, right? There was a time that money was tight, the situation was tight, and the true me, the CEO that I am, was a people person. I made sure I didn't get paid first before I cut anybody else's pay. I made any other changes to anybody, to anything. So that was a tough time. My wife felt that was really tough. We literally was living on $25 a week for food while being the CEO of a company. Okay, if these are things you have to give up sometimes to keep the business going. All right. Not making payroll. Okay? There have been times when payroll came a lot quicker than 2 weeks. I don't know how, 2 weeks can happen in a couple of days, but there's been times when it's time to pay everybody and you don't have payroll. Okay? That's some other crashes is key leadership leading. Right? You invest in some leadership, and you're a unicorn. And the unicorn leaves in a month, probably not a month, a year. Right? If it doesn't in a month, you're probably better off. They leave in a year. Right? So now you're truly stuck. And here's one where you have that big customer. We had, I think this will cause some more nightmares than any other, and I can put a whole bunch of them up here. But you have this big customer, and when you're growing, you always go through this phase of big whale, where you get this one customer that's like 85% of your income. Well, we had a big whale in our company at one point, and that big whale was producing a high 7-figure number. And I get an email that high 7-figure turned to a mid 6-figure. And that was supporting 10 of my employees, 10 out of 12 at that time. So I've had many successes, many crashes, I've learned many lessons. But what I want to focus on is, I'm going to focus a little bit on that 7-figure customer and how that, and the steps that took to get through that crash. So I put up a crash and question marks because to me, when you have a business, and you've been around as long as I have, you're going to have lots of crashes, tons of crashes. And to me, the result of a crash is 2 things. Either you learn or you burn. Learn or burn. That's what crashes do for you. They give you opportunities to either learn or burn. So that's why I put the question mark there, because when I mentioned to you, I had this one customer. I remember I was at work, sitting at my desk, doing my CEO thing, whatever that is, right? Calling people, making phone calls, writing emails, and doing something. I get an email. So I was all, hello, Charlie, hope everybody's doing well, your family's doing well. And then it said a bunch of blah, blah, blah. Sounds like, when you're talking to your dog, blah, 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 street. It was blah, 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 blah. Cutting income to this. Instant crash. Instant, like, where's the nearest bridge? right? It was devastating, because the first thing that came to my mind was the fact that I had, at this point, I had 12 employees. And I know 9 to 10 of them were based on this contract. I mean, when you at the 9 or 10 phase, Jeff, you love everybody, right? Everybody's family. You come in, you like go into a second family, right? And so who is that going to affect? That is a tough decision. So what did I do? What was my steps? First of all, as I said before, crash happens, right? Connie, Eddie, she had it right, but she wrote that crash happens, and she spelled crash with an S, right? Crashes do happen, you get what I'm saying. As a pastor, I just say yes. But crash happened, and what did I do? The first thing I did was, at this time, is I went to my pity party place. And for me, my pity party place is this lazy boy my wife got me. And I sat in that and I just moan and groan and just, look like a little puppy dog, hoping she would come over and kind of pat me on the back, kind of scratch me, somebody give me something, right? I just was told that I may have to lay off 5 or 6 of my employees. That's how I was seeing it. So I instantly went to my pity party place. And then you start thinking negative. I'm just letting you know, Jeff, what's going to happen. All right? You might not sit in my lazy chair, but you have a place. And I started negative talking, and is it because of this? How is it because why can't I be successful? I mean, you feel a lot of I this time. You feel like you've done something to screw this thing up. But Connie Eddie said, crash is happen. They happen. Right? You just gotta understand that they happen. So what did I do? What I learned to do is between a crash and my response and the outcome is my response. And I call that a gate. Right? And so what I noticed that based on my response of a crash, I'm either going to learn or I'm going to burn. And I started putting a lot of effort into what are the items in my gate that help me to always learn. Because that's what I found out in business is that you want things to always go right, but it doesn't. And the only thing that's constant is change. And customers change, employees change, situations change. So let's examine what I consider my 3 gates. Now, because I know we only have a certain amount of time, I won't cover all 3 of these. I got an email that told me I had 20 minutes. And I don't know about many of you, but when you tell a pastor they have 20 minutes, hey, all I can get out of that is my name. But just let's look at a why bigger than dollars. But I heard somebody say why to Jeff while he was talking, and that is pretty important. So about I'm not even saying how many years. A long time ago, I started college. Very excited guy. First generation college person. Like I said, no one in my family going to college. I was so inexperienced with understanding what college was that my first day of college, I went to school dead down. Because in high school, first day of school, you had to do good, right? I went to college, I get out of my car, dead down, and I look around and people have shorts on, t-shirts, hats. And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, we pay the professors. They can't work for us. Why am I coming here? Like, I need to get an education. I didn't understand that because I had no one in my family, in my generations, that had ever gone to college. So I didn't have that experience. So I get into college. I know I want to major in computer science. And eventually I find my first class. And I get to the class, and there's about 100, in fact, the class was a little bit like this. And there was about 100 people in the class. And it was a computer science class. So we all sitting around again, I'm all excited, I'm in college, I'm all excited. I didn't know it's my first day, I'm all excited. And the professor walks in, comes in. Boom, he lays down a big book, and he comes back to the middle. He looks out, he says, there's about 100 of you out here today. He said, let me explain something to you. At this college, only about 15 kids graduate from computer science every year. 100 of you out here. He said, let me help you figure out who those 15 are. He said, everyone stand up. So everyone stood up. He said, if you do not have access to a computer, don't own a computer, you have to have a computer, sit down. You know, I'm looking around, still excited, right? Looking around, no one was sitting down, but I had to sit down. And then he went on to say 12th grade, 11th grade, 10th grade. Now, in his mind, he probably didn't see it as evil as I was seeing it. But he was trying to convey a message. He got down to about 8th grade, and there was about 15 people standing up. He said, okay, look around. Those 15 people right there are most likely the 15 that's going to graduate. Everyone else, you might want to be considered your maybe. I was devastated. First time college kid, I felt like I had a mountain to climb already, walking into that class, walking into college. And then I was just told, I am so far behind. It's like it'll be almost impossible to get a computer science degree. So guess what I did? What any teenager would do at that age. I went to my dorm room, I packed, I went home. College is not for me. And I got home, and boy, you should see the surprise look on my mom's face. Like, I just got rid of you. You back? Right? And I said, yeah, I'm back. And I explained to my mom. I said, hey, mom, this is what happened. Right? She thought I was coming back for that magic white box that always had food in it. Sort of. And so my mother was the internet before the internet. Right? So once I explained that to her, she went out and told everybody. Every agency that was out there, she went and just knocked on doors. She was a marketing and salesperson, right? She just knocked on doors. About 2 weeks later, someone knocked on that door. We went to open the door, and it was somebody from an agency. And this person had walked through the projects to get to my house. Don't know if he got to my house first. He might have knocked on a couple of doors before he got to my house. And he didn't look nothing like me. So he put his life in risk to walk through my projects, and he handed me a brand new computer. Now, I might cry because I get emotional every time I tell the story. He brought me a brand new computer. That moment changed my life because I realized the power of a little love. Random, unexpected love. When he did that, it bridged every social divide that I had and digital divide. If I was ever going to be racist, it ended that day. If I would ever use the excuse I don't have, it ended that day. Just because he showed a random act of love, and I said, you know what? I want to be like that kind of person. First role model, I want to be like that. I didn't have a dad, right? Dad living projects in the world with dad. I said, I want to be like that, right? So I got this computer, all excited. Eventually, I did go back to school. They let me back in on a little probationary period. And eventually, I did graduate. You know, some people be career students. It's okay to be a career student, right? Except for it wasn't okay financially. But anyway, so eventually I graduate, and I get up to graduation. I go, you know what? I'm going to see how many kids actually graduated from computer science. So I walk over to the computer science. You know, they think it's special. They have this special area for computer science. So I get there, and I'm counting And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The professor was correct. Only about 15 were graduated, 13 graduated. But where the professor was wrong is that I was one of them. And when I was walking up to get my diploma, the only thing I can think of is that when I make it, I had no idea what make it meant. I'm going to do what that person did. That is my why. From this moment on, that why is that I want to improve the world, sharing love to bridge social and digital divides. That's what I want to do. Right? Fast forward. Fast forward. I'm on LinkedIn one day, and I read this article. And this article was on Wall Street Journal. I read a lot every day, a couple of hours every day. Love and passion, right? So I'm reading this Wall Street Journal article, and it's talking about, it said the big six. It's talking about Facebook, Amazon, Google, and all of them. And they made this pact about 6 years prior to that they want to diversify their leadership, that they're going to put more money in underrepresented, finance resource areas. They're going to do all these wonderful things. And it was 6 years later, and Wall Street was doing an audit. And Wall Street came back and said, basically, guys, you haven't done anything. And they were using heavy words, right? And I'm sitting there going, you know, this is my passion. I've been in business. At this point, I hadn't started the foundations or anything. I said, I know that's my passion. We've been doing little things, but we need to do something big. And I'm sitting there and contemplating, counting. Before I can write something back, there's a ding on that article, and it's from Tobias, the CEO of Bulletproof. He said, this is crap. And a whole bunch of other words. He used words I can't say as a pastor. But he was fired up. And I'm going, who is this guy? This guy sounds fired up like I am. I called him. Said, hey, you sound fired up on that LinkedIn. He said, I am. I said, well, here's what I did. How about you and I partner together to create a golf tournament called Drive for STEM, and we raise money to give computers and send kids to college. He said, I'm in. Here's some money. I said, I need some money to get started. I'm a small business. He said, how much you need? I told him how much you need. He wrote me a check. And we got Drive for STEM started. And now we have an annual tournament where we donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to give computers every year, to give scholarships every year, to send kids to UVA STEM camp. That is my why. That is what can help. If you have a why that's bigger than a dollar, if my why was make money, then those crashes would have burned me many years ago. But my why is bigger than a dollar. So I'm doing this because I want to impact the world in a positive way. And that's why our mission, look at the mission vision at our company. The vision is to help you, being founders, enterprise, or whatever, to improve the world through creative software innovation. As a software development company, that's what we want to work on, software that improves the world. So that became our why. And just to give you an example, one of the first times we walked out and gave computers, NBC 29 was there and all this. We took the computer to one of the recipients, and we called the recipient out, and we made sure that we was safe, because we had a lot of people knocking on the door, and cameras and all this. It's kind of scary, right? So the recipient came out, and we handed her a computer, we handed her the scholarship to the camp, and then she just started crying. I mean, she was just crying. And she said, I had no idea there's people out there who cared about me, who don't even know me. That's how you change the world. That's how you change the lives of people, one person at a time. So as a CEO, I don't do this for money. You ask him, you see, I had several of my employees here. I see my director of HR up there. I see my director of growth. person taking all the pictures is my director of HR. I even have one of my interns back there, so good brownie points, buddy. So, but they all understand when they talk to me. My why is not about being the next billionaire. My why is how many people can we make money for to go out and help to give them the same chances that all of us in here have, that they don't have right now. So when your why is bigger than dollars, you can crash and learn. Just realize it's not just about dollars. Yeah. I'm not gonna be able to talk about the other two, but the other two are just as important. Perseverance is important, because I do a lot of reading. I've been in this for 30 years. We've grown that company from 4 to 60. What I've learned in reading, watching, is that the successful companies are the ones that just persevere. Because everyone gets crashed. Everyone. Right? But you just gotta keep going. You just can't give up. You just can't give up. Right? And then you gotta get over yourself. You gotta, as a CEO, it's not all about you. Right? What I learned the hard way is that when there's a problem, for instance, I'm not even gonna get into some of that crash and burn, but there was a time where we couldn't make payroll, right? Consistently. I had to make some decisions. I didn't want to fire any of my employees. So I did something that probably wasn't good. I voluntarily borrowed from the IRS. Okay? Then I didn't pay payroll taxes. But I was making sure the employees could work. But the IRS didn't like it, right? But it gave us, I'm not asking anybody to go do this, but it did give us like 6 or 8 months before we could recover from the situation we were in. And then we were able, blessedly, to go back and pay the IRS. Right? Because we know, man, it like get on you hard. But anyway, but you had to get over yourself. Now, I did all of that in the closet. Worrying about it myself. Nobody knew that was going on. I felt like I was gonna jump off a bridge. I might even felt suicidal. I don't know. I was really, really not myself. And years later, years later, people in the company didn't know that was going on. Years later, I told one of my leaders finally, I said, hey, I just realized I need a professor right now. And I told him, I said, why did you go do that by yourself? If you would have told us that, we would have probably given you the money. We would have, and I'm telling you, get over yourself, you CEO, right? You have a leadership team, be vulnerable, be willing to talk to them, be transparent, and you won't have as many crash and burns. You have a way more crash and burns. So, anyway, I'm not gonna go into those as much. I had some stories for those as well, but anyway, I'll stop it there because I see my time is obviously run out. And thank you for having me.
That was awesome, Kelly. I'm so grateful. You can leave your mic on though, because that was great, very inspiring, and just totally on point. We can take a couple minutes, maybe 5, and for Q&A, 1 or 2, or maybe 3 people have questions.
Yeah. If you have a question that you want Charlie to answer, go down and stand next to Charlie. And then stand behind them if you have an announcement to make.
Yeah, so I'll repeat that. So if you have a question for Charlie, come down here first, and then behind them, if you have an announcement. And the announcements real quick are if you know of an event, or if you have an event coming up, you want us to let everyone know about, or if your company is hiring. So we'll just, for time's sake, we'll just kind of do it in a line. So you can come down here, or raise your hand if you have a question, just so I know who I'm potentially waiting for. Does anybody have a question for Charlie? Okay. You can come first. Does anybody else have a question for him? Okay. If you do, just let me know when you get here and I can slide you to the front of the line. And then again, if your company's hiring. And if you're with CIC or CBIC or SBDC, you can come down here too for an announcement. All right, so why don't I give you the mic to ask a question? We can come, actually, if you guys don't mind coming in front of, for the people on webcast, like way over here. All right, so what is your question?
Hey Charlie, I've got a question for you, a little on the tricky side.
Tricky stuff, quick but tricky. Okay.
Yes. Have you ever had to fire a client because it was toxic and affecting your company culture and dynamic?
That is a great question.
Alexandra.
Okay, all right. I
Alex.
trust you. That is a great question. Now, I would say that has two answers. In the early years, I fired no one. We needed every opportunity to grow that we could have. But as we continue to grow, I realized the importance of working with people we want to work with. And what's most important in our company is our culture. And that culture we look for, and not just in all our stakeholders, community, employees. We have this value that we call care, and care is committed, adaptive, resilient, and earnest. And they don't get at the point in our business that we don't work with anyone that doesn't have the same culture we have. Let me give you an example. We had a company come talk to us, they were from Boston, and they came in and it was like 3 or 4 of them, and they had this great idea, going to change the world. They knew that kind of work without motto, change the world. And we said, okay, let's talk about it. And when we sat down and started talking to them, they wanted to create a marketing campaign for marijuana. Can we do that in the company? We can write software to do this. But did that match with our values? It did not. And they showed us how this could be a big, probably the biggest project we had ever worked on. And I didn't even have to say, I'm listening to them, and when they left, my team said, we already know what you're going to say, right? And to me, when you are growing in the early stage, you're still trying to value who you are. You probably take almost anybody, but you do need to get to that point where you only take customers that meet the values that your company has. Because you get hypocritical if you say your company values are these, but you're taking in customers is totally different, and your team will see that as well.
Awesome. Good question.
I'm sorry. It probably was like long.
No, it's great. Does anyone else have a question for Charlie?
That was a great question.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Charlie, are you willing to share your contact information if anyone wants to get in touch with you? There you go. crogers@issvalue.com. You guys at webcast can see that, so it's awesome. So thank you again, and come back anytime. All right, awesome. Give him a hand. And then looking out just real quick, if you think of something, just come down here on your own, but we can set Hannah. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Deal. I'm the operations coordinator at CIC, or Community Investment Collaborative. For those of you who don't know about CIC, we are right down the road in Citizens Commonwealth Center. We're on the same floor as the SBDC, which I will speak on afterwards. We are a nonprofit that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs. And one of our main offerings is our 16-week entrepreneur workshop. We do that twice a year. Applications are open right now. So that's my main announcement. They're open for another 6 days till next Monday. So basically this is a crash course in how to run a business, how to start a business, and it's a great opportunity for networking. So if you or someone else you know is interested, please tell them to go to our website. You can find all of the dates there. But I can tell you it starts August 9th and it goes till November 29th, skipping Thanksgiving week. So just check that out on our website, tell people about it, 6 more days, hoping to get a few more applications. We also do some, what was it? Your website. Yeah, it's on the website. Oh, cicville.org, that is our website. And it should be at what we do entrepreneur workshop. So we also do some one-on-one counseling. We do mentoring. We have a financial management program, which we are working on developing even further. We also have a collaborative space. So if you or someone you know is looking to, pay a very low fee to have a space to work in, the free printing, coffee, Wi-Fi, then we are the place for that. And if you reach out, if you call or if you email, I'm probably going to be the first person that you talk to. And then we also work very closely with the Small Business Development Center. And I'm speaking for them too because no one could be here during this time.
but the SBDC is on our same floor, and they do primarily one-on-one counseling, but they do a lot of webinars and seminars as well. So generally, if someone comes to CIC and we aren't able to help them in the way that we want to, we send them off down to SBDC, where they'll meet with one of their 15 or so advisors, which includes Rebecca, the director, and Greg, who I mentioned earlier. So they have a lot of resources over there. So basically, if you're needing assistance with something, we can help you between the CIC and SBDC. And the main announcements for SBDC are, trying to remember, thankfully they didn't give me the full list, but I know that they have one of these talk on the one-on-one counseling, so that's always available and it's free, just to clarify.
Pitch preview.
Pitch preview. I do not know what pitch preview is. There is something about pitch preview. My next thing was going to be to say to go to their website. You can see calendar of events. They have everything listed there. And, you know, whatever the pitch preview is, if you call the number on the website, they'll be happy to tell you about whatever is, you know, happening soon. cbsbdc.org. And I'm pretty sure there's a link somewhere on CIC as well. And then, yeah, I think that's it. Sorry, not the smoothest presentation this morning, thrown at me a little bit last minute, but all their stuff is on the website. And if you're just wanting to get some more information, feel free to reach out to me, and I can also direct you towards the SBDC. So my email is Hannah, HANNAH, @cicville.org. And that's it for me. So thank you.
Hey there, I'm Tracy Green. I'm the Executive Director for the Charlottesville Business Innovation Council. One of the co-hosts. Hope is on the board of CDIC and has been doing this as a volunteer. So let's thank Hope for her volunteerism. We have an event that has been popular for many years, and we haven't done it since the pandemic started. We're getting back with our Tech on Taps. And I'm sure all of you know we're there because he came to every single one, every single month. So we typically do it the second Tuesday monthly, and we're gonna start holding them at millisecond. So you come in not this entryway, but the one on downtown mall. And you pay your own tab, but it's just a great opportunity for members of the technology community and the innovation-based community to get together and network and find one another. Jeff, you might find your unicorn employee there. Lots of people have found jobs, investors, co-founders, even husbands and wives at these events. I kid you not. So if you are not already on the mailing list for CDIC, it's at cvilleinnovation.org. You can sign up for our mailing list, and we push out reminders about the CE2 event that we're here at now, the Tech on Tap that's coming up, and everything else that's going on with SBDC and CIC that's relevant to entrepreneurship. CDIC is the Tech Council in Charlottesville. We educate, advocate, and celebrate the technology community, like we did with our Big Awards Gala recently. And something for you, Jeff, something that I think would be interesting. There's a program in town called the Catalyst Accelerator. Are you familiar with it? The Catalyst Accelerator, we have some fellows here from the Catalyst Accelerator. He can tell you a little bit more about it as somebody in the cohort. But they have space on the downtown mall. We have rolling applications for it. I'm one of the judges on the panel that looks at companies that are interested in having physical space there, but more than that, it's a network and educational opportunity. And you also comes with $20,000 cash. So you can do things like hire your next employee or do marketing or the things that you need to do. So I encourage you to look into that. The hub, cba.org, is a community asset that CDIC built during the pandemic. It's an online portal for everybody in this space where you can have your own profile, your business should be on there, and your business will have a profile. And there are lists. If you go on there on the very first homepage, there's a list of resources for tech startups. And if you click on that, you can actually get all of that information at once. You can also create your own list. It could be my favorite events in Charlottesville or my favorite news articles as an entrepreneur. You can create your own list and make it public on that portal. I think that's it right now. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you. Thanks you guys for being here. Maybe, I don't know what time it is, but probably a little bit over. I know that it sounds like Jeff might be at some point hiring. I know Charlie mentioned that they're hiring, and on their website, ISS Value, you can see jobs there. I am a recruiter by profession, so I'll kind of real quick list, just like 3. I'm looking for an associate advisor, so if you want to be an advisor, you are, but you don't want to be on the sales side, you can work an existing book, or you know somebody. Great position, good salary on that. I'm also looking for an HR manager, and I'm also looking for a marketing, director or marketing manager, creative marketing manager. So, and then a .NET developer, which I think everyone's looking for. Yeah, we are here the 3rd Tuesday of every month outside of December. And so we will be back here, the 3rd week of July. So look forward to seeing you guys back here and take some coffee on your way out if there's any more, and see you then.